On the future of COVID, I want to bring in Dr. Amish Adalja. He joins us now. He's a senior scholar at the Johns Hopkins University Center for Health Security. Doctor, thanks so much for joining Top Story. I know you're not a spokesperson for Dr. Fauci, but why is there such a mixed message coming out of public health officials in the U.S.? We have been at this for 2 years now, right? First, he says we are in this transitional phase or we're coming out of the pandemic. Then he decides not to go to the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Fine, that's probably a better choice anyway. We'll probably have more fun at home. But we also have the CDC that is appealing that judge's order to bring masks back on planes, buses, and trains. So it seems like there's no direction at this point. Can you explain what's happening right now?
I think this really stems from a lack of clarity on what our goals are with this pandemic and with this virus. I think you have to realize that this is not a virus that can be eradicated or eliminated. We're always going to have a baseline number of cases, hospitalizations, and deaths. And our goal was really to shift disease to the milder spectrum, to remove the ability of this virus to overwhelm hospitals. And from that sense, yes, the pandemic acute phase is over in this country because we have so much immunity in the population that we are unlikely to see hospitals get overrun again. But there's a lot of differences in people's risk tolerances. And the fact is, cases still occur. And many people are not comfortable with the fact that the post-pandemic world is not 2019. It really never can be 2019. And I think they have to be really honest with the population and just say that this is the new normal, that we're going to have this baseline risk of COVID-19. And you've got to learn how to risk calculate and get vaccinated and use the tools that we have.
How should we interpret when we have data? Because, experts have been predicting the beginning of the end for a while now, but we have 36 states that are seeing an uptick. But how should we interpret that? Because I think you brought up some really good points there in your last statements. When we're talking about this and we're reporting this out, cases are on the rise, but the cases obviously are less severe and the hospitals are not overwhelmed.
Exactly. So what we have to do is take our focus off of cases. Cases are going to go up and down. There's going to be hotspots. There's going to be new contagious variants that might appear. But so long as hospitals are not getting overrun, I think we're in a good place. So much for so long in the pandemic, we really focus on cases because cases translated into hospitals in crisis. Now there's been this delinkage or decoupling because of vaccinations, because of antivirals, because of monoclonal antibodies. So we've got to get more attuned to looking at hospitals and hospital capacity to gauge when we should be worried, because we're always going to see cases. And I think that's the problem here, is that so many people are still focused on cases when, from a public health standpoint, a lot of us are now focused on hospitals and hospital capacity.
Dr. Adalja, what's your take on this second booster? A lot of people they qualify for it, but they're not getting it, right? And then there's other people who say, I'm not going to get it. I already got the booster. I got Omicron. I feel like I have the antibodies. What's your take on that second booster for people?
I think it really should be targeted to those that are at the highest risk for severe disease. So the immunocompromised, that's one group where I think it makes sense. I don't think the general population, even a healthy 50-year-old who's gotten one booster, is probably going to benefit much from a second booster, because the benefit is transient. And if you're protected against severe disease, I think that's enough with these first-generation vaccines. Because for healthy people, getting boosted, even the first booster, doesn't really reduce your risk of severe disease because you have a very low risk of severe disease to begin with. That's why I think that boosters from the very beginning should have been targeted towards high-risk individuals and not universalized, because I think that gives us kind of the wrong strategy. Because if we're boosting to prevent mild illness in healthy people, that's really not a strategy with these first-generation vaccines. We know it's first and second doses that keep people out of the hospital, and we still have 33% of the population that's not fully vaccinated.
Dr. Adalja, we thank you for your time. I think you make a lot of smart points at a time when a lot of people are confused.